Everybody, welcome back to On the Roof. Today, we're going to do our annual football special. We've got return guest, Pat Godfrey. Pat's story, phenomenal story. I mean, the first time I heard it, I was like, I couldn't believe the balls it took for him to make the decisions and then the conviction to see them through. Look at he's blushing, if I can get. But he's such a young guy, and I have a lot of admiration for the way he handled his business and continues to handle his business. He's got something going on right now. This is absolutely mind-blowing. So let's get right into this. Welcome, Pat.
Yeah, so happy to be back.
Yeah.
It's been a long year since we last met here, but I'm happy to have survived it. We both made it.
Yeah.
And thanks for having me back on.
So let's get into football later. Let's talk about what you're doing.
Yeah, so I'll kind of give you a condensed version of the story. So it all kind of started out back in the spring of 2020. Just freshly moved up to New York City and had a great connection down from my time in Clemson, still in South Carolina, who was an ex-New Yorker. So I called him up and was just kind of chit-chatting a little bit and told me, hey, listen, Pat, I got this great friend who's running a great charity in New York that I think you might be interested in getting involved with. I think it might have even been June at this time. So we were really in the heat of the pandemic. And I was just starting to think about, think about all these kids who are going into their senior years in high school and the kind of uncertainty that existed. So I said, hey, I'm looking for a way to get back involved in the game of football, and the charity, does kind of three things: SAT prep, physical fitness and preparation, and then sports-specific preparation. So they, at the time, were doing every Sunday for free up at 161 Yankee Stadium. Just little practices for whoever wanted to show up. Hey, you're stuck inside all day in your apartment.
This is how you're just beginning it, like you're just starting it. It
was already functioning, and I just said, hey, I'm happy to volunteer and help coach. I can, show these kids a little bit of offensive line, a little bit of defensive line. Hopefully, I can be of assistance. So when I first went on a Sunday morning, drove up to the Bronx, I was kind of thinking, hey, one or two times, it'll be a good time, but nothing serious. As soon as I got involved and started coaching on a weekly basis with these kids, it was just like, oh my gosh, I was gravitated, because basically what we were doing is we're working with kids from all 5 boroughs, and these kids were waking up at 8 a.m. on Sunday mornings when probably a lot of their peers are laying in bed hungover, and hopping on a train for an hour-long train ride up to the Bronx just so that they could work with us for an hour and a half. So when I saw this kind of level of dedication, I said, okay, I owe it to these kids to be here consistently. So that kind of continued for about 2 months, and we're showing these kids, the right techniques and helping them get better at their game. There's tremendous buy-in, and started cultivating real family atmosphere. And then in late July, Mayor de Blasio announced that they're going to cancel the fall sports season. And it was tangible. You could see very clearly the next week after that news had come out, these kids were dejected. They had lost hope. If you're a football player, especially coming from the inner city New York, and that's your ticket out, losing your senior year to them meant losing everything. It was at that point that my partner, who is the founder of the charity AboutU, turned to me and said, Pat, we should try and do something, a little recruiting event, just to give them some sort of opportunity. And that was kind of the birth of the Elite Five. So over the subsequent months, we really, in painstaking detail, broke out and built out a really fantastic platform for these kids.
How did you do that?
The Elite
Five.
When you start to do that? It's tough, I was learning for the first time.
Did your partner kind of have a game plan? Or
not
create as you go?
Not particularly. It was more so create as we go. But what I kind of looked at it and said, this is an opportunity. God blessed me with my time at Clemson, and by virtue of that time at Clemson, I had this Rolodex of people throughout the entire country at phenomenal
called the NFL. That's what it's called.
Exactly. And even beyond that, into the coaching tree, throughout college football, and I've got into a lot of different programs.
Yeah.
So I kind of started there. I said, you know what, if we're going to do this, let's do it big, let's do it well, and let's give these kids a true opportunity to showcase the best that they have. So the first step was we locked down a location. We were initially looking at Randall's Island, and we thought that'd be a perfect place to do a New York City event. But unfortunately, the city wasn't giving out park permits through the COVID-19 pandemic, so we couldn't get insured. So we settled on and partnered with Archbishop Stepinac High School in White Plains. They're a fantastic program, probably one of the top 2 or 3 football programs in New York State. They're Under Armour sponsored. They have all the great facilities. And we said, you know what, this is perfect, because what we're going to do is we're going to leverage a school that has to give back to those who don't. And so we partnered with them, set up the site. It was me and my partner. He took Twitter, I took Instagram, and just trying to churn out whatever kind of content.
That's where I first saw it. I saw that this stuff you post on Instagram.
Yeah, so that was really our approach, very social media heavy. As far as garnering players, what we said was it's really important for us to give back to the public school kids. Those are really the kids throughout this whole pandemic and continually who have gotten a raw deal. They've lost out on in-person learning, lost out on sports, similar challenges in the Catholic League, but those kids at least have had some opportunities to have extracurricular activities. So we did 2/3 public school kids who needed the opportunity, 1/3 that upper crust of athlete that comes out of the Catholic League, because a lot of the top athletes are swallowed up by
elite athletes, and they have to be good athletes.
It's tough. We would have loved to put on a 2,000 person showcase and help every kid in the area get a look.
But you're limited.
But we're limited. So what we did is we said, okay, 300 is our capacity, and there's
200 coming from public school.
200 from public schools, 100 from Catholic schools.
How do you get those 100 from the Catholic school? How do you decide?
What we did is we made partnerships with all the different schools in the area. So called up, Iona Prep, and called up Archbishop Stepinac.
Hayes, Cardinal Hayes, the football team.
Yeah, Cardinal Hayes. Call up these schools and say, hey, we're working to put something together big here. Would you guys be willing to refer us your top 10 players, let's say?
So then you're depending on the coach's input to say, these are the kids I think deserve this.
Exactly. And we replicated that model. We went straight to the head of the PSAL in New York City, which is Danny Landberg at Erasmus Hall. And he's been a great partner for us, partnered with him and his program. And he basically got the word out to all the public school coaches in New York City of, hey, this event's going on, refer, 3 to 10 players from your school, whoever you think has the chops to play at the next level, to go.
So you got more than 100 referrals, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
so how do you decide what 100 are going to come in?
But by the end, referral-wise, it put us right around our number that we needed at the end. But the tough thing was dealing with the constant Instagram flow of kids saying, hey, kid, what do I need to do to get my chance? I want to be in the elite.
You say for coaches, especially in the high school level, the hardest part of that job is cutting kids. It's before the dream really gets a chance.
It's brutal,
right.
And we wish we weren't in that predicament, because our goal is to help as many kids as possible. Yeah. And me personally, I could care less whether a kid is a 5-star world beater recruit or a guy who's barely making his varsity team. Yeah. I want to see both guys succeed.
Yeah.
But we had a cap, and we had to deliver a good product to our recruiting schools.
That also might make for the following year. Correct me if I'm wrong, but you got to work to get there now. It's not just
exactly.
You're not getting a carte blanche.
Exactly. Well, we wanted to maintain some aura of exclusivity with the event, because we really wanted kids to be looking forward to it. We wanted the kids who were able to get an invite to feel honored and to go out and put their best foot forward. And it really did become that. So basically, we found our site, we found our players, and the third step was we need to find schools to recruit this. We got hit with a real challenge that I thought could potentially end the Elite Five before it ever began. Back in September, the NCAA announced, hey, we're putting a dead period on recruiting for the rest of 2020, which basically means that no school was allowed to recruit in person, which killed us, because our plan was invite as many coaches as possible, try and get them all here on the sideline with a clipboard. Well, that plan goes out the window, and we had to adjust on the fly. So what we decided is, hey, Life gives you lemons, make lemonade. This, seemingly terrible news that came in from the NCAA wound up being a blessing in disguise. Because what we did was we pivoted and we decided to make the event fully virtual. So what that entailed was we basically hired a team of about 6 camera people to walk around the field and film every single clip, every single rep of each player on the entire field that would then be distributed to every single coach who committed to recruiting the event. What this allowed us to do is we really lowered the barriers to entry for all these schools because we came to them with a great value proposition. Called them up, hey, if you would like to be an Elite 5 recruiting school, all you need to do is give us the email address, the contact information for your head of recruiting or whoever is tasked with recruiting the New York area. And all you have to do is sit back and wait, and we're going to give you a dump of 300 kids film, 2 minutes each kid, of everything they did.
Do they have to qualify as a school to be part of this event?
What we wanted to do is we wanted to take a more liberal approach to bringing in as many schools as possible for this first year while we're doing proof of concept. We're an unknown entity. It's me calling up Ohio State, me calling up Notre Dame, me calling up LSU, and saying, hey, you might not normally recruit the New York area, which we talked about before is historically under-recruited.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you access at no cost to you, to our guys.
No travel, no. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of
bringing a lot of value.
Yes.
So through that model and, kind of working my networks around the country.
Were they like sports?
Yes.
That was especially because that's really important if your coach is looking for
we partnered with a company called PlayerPager.com, and basically they're a sports entertainment business and kind of works specifically in the recruiting field. So they had the expertise and the background to do a good job of what we were asking of them. So basically we get this all set up. I really, really charged hard, and the rest of the team as a group of about 5 guys behind this that was really pushing to make everything happen. Charged hard and got a bunch of great schools signed on, finished with over 100 recruiting schools. And we did this in about a 6-week period, got that many schools listed.
How many schools?
About a little over 100. So we were looking at about, I think it was 48 or 49 Division I schools, and the rest D2, D3, junior college, and prep school.
First year. I mean, this is amazing. These first year numbers.
And it was really cool because in the weeks leading up to the event, all of a sudden the event took on a life of its own on Twitter and Instagram, and all these kids are talking about is posting their invitation. I'm going to be at the Elite 5, are you? And then to take the marketing a step further, I leveraged my connections within the NFL and around the country, guys who I played with at Clemson, and called up my buddy Christian Wilkins, who plays for Miami Dolphins, and I explained to him the mission and said, hey, could you give us a shout out? And all of a sudden they started rolling in every couple of days a new NFL guy saying, hey, it's Christian Wilkins with the Miami Dolphins, and I will let you know I'm excited to see New York City's best and see you guys take care of business on and off the field so you can be successful, and I hope to see you on Sunday. All this stuff kind of built, and long story short, it came together and it was a fantastic event. We had about 300 kids, and literally these kids, you would have thought that it was Christmas for them. And it was never more tangible to me, the impact of taking away sports from these kids until I saw their faces out there on the field.
Yeah.
These kids literally, it was their first time in over a year in a lot of instances to get to play the game they love and do it with high stakes, with high competition. It was just a really fantastic thing.
Given all the stars in perfect alignment, the alchemy is just picture perfect. What's the best case scenario? If you can walk away at the end of one of them and go, if I can do this again, that's great.
I mean, really, it was a win from the start. The day that we stood on that field and started coaching these kids and started, competing, that was a win just to get there, given the challenges of COVID.
Okay, now we're going up the ladder. That's great. Next rung.
That's
even better than that.
The next rung is I'd like to see, at least 40% of the kids that go through the camp get college offers and be able to play on the next level. I think in actuality, we won't know for a couple of years because there's different age groups.
Right.
But we had about 128 seniors, and I think we're expecting, over 100 of them to get a chance to play at the next level, which is amazing.
That's insane.
Ideally, it'd be 100% placement rate. That's never, reality. Where do we grow from here? This year was a big momentous occasion because it really gave New York City kids an opportunity to play on a national stage.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the performance of this year and what's upcoming in 2021 will really make sure that going forward, college coaches have the Elite Five marked on their calendar. And they know, okay, the best in New York City are going to be playing on, May 22nd, and I got to make sure that I'm tuned in and ready to go. And I think over time, as we bring in more and more top athletes and get more and more eyes onto this event, all of a sudden you're going to see a direct correlation between the Elite Five and the number of kids that are getting a great chance to go to Division I out of New York City.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, of course I have an affinity for New York City kids too, but I'm not in the football world like you are. But you just know that New York City's not known for its football.
Exactly.
Long Island maybe, but as you go out of the city, it becomes more pertinent.
That's one of the reasons why stuff like this is so important.
Yeah.
Because, if you think about it, for as old as time, New York City's been known as a basketball city.
Yeah.
And what's the most athletic sport there is in the world? It's easily basketball. LeBron James could be a Hall of Fame NFL football player if we wanted to.
Yeah.
The athleticism is here. The issue is in New York City, kids face challenges in the sport of football like they don't anywhere else in the country. Most public high schools in New York City don't have the funding to have a football program. If they do have a football program, they rarely have their own field. And these kids are having to travel, tremendous distances just to be able to practice and play games. They rarely have their own weight room. And on top of it, all these factors going against them, when colleges want to recruit New York City, it's not an easy area to get around. If I'm flying in from Clemson, South Carolina, and I want to recruit a kid at Cardinal Hayes in the Bronx, a kid at Christ the King in Queens, and then I want to go over to Tottenville and Staten Island, I can't get that done in a day.
No way.
You can't get that done. And a coach might say, hey, I'm not going to Brooklyn for just one kid at Erasmus Hall, but you know what? If I can go see 20 kids that would be, high quality players for me at one event in one place.
What about that hidden gem of a kid, just as a kid, and then also as an athlete, that doesn't get the look at all because the football doesn't get the priority that it does in other places, right? But there's that gem that you would see what I wouldn't see.
I contacted Boomer Esiason leading up to the event and was hoping to have him speak at the event. CBS's contract wouldn't allow that to happen, but Boomer put together a great 5-minute video explaining his experience.
He's a fucking good dude, huh?
Great guy. Put together a video for us that we showed to all the kids. And one of the things that he really harped on, one of his main points was New York is filled with uncut gems. You have talent here. It's out there. You just got to dig a little bit deeper to find it. And he talks about how when he got to Maryland out of Long Island, he was a 10th string quarterback his first day on the team and slowly elevated himself to the NFL MVP. There's more Boomer Esiasons out there. And for everyone that right now is able to matriculate and get to college and go on to the pros maybe, there's 10 who had that talent who never got the look.
Well, that's it, but you can't, that's a great story. Boomer, his story in itself is a great story, but he was a gifted athlete too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so you got to find a gifted athlete. You can have the heart, but the heart without the talent will get you so far. You got to compete on an elite level.
Exactly. Exactly. And one of the things we did to kind of cover all of our bases is it was just as important for us to get the SUNY Brockports of the world as it was to get the Ohio States.
Yeah.
Because not every single kid is going to have that top end ability. It takes a rare combination of God-given talent and that work ethic in order to really be able to thrive on the highest level. And that's not every kid. But you know what? I can tell you, there were kids that showed up that were not on any of our radar, that we've never heard of before. And at the end of the day, we were writing it down saying, in any competitive venture there is, sometimes when you're a kid, I really, one thing I despise is when everyone's evaluated. Everybody's a fucking genius when it comes to who's going to be and what their potential is. It drives me nuts.
and especially when they limit, like this kid don't have the heart, or this kid he's too whatever, like because there's a big jump from 14 to 18 to 22. Sometimes that if you just get on the freaking squad, you can have that aha moment. All of a sudden you're up against this all-American candidate, and all of a sudden you're like holding your own. All of a sudden everything just changed.
Exactly.
Like did you have moments like that? I mean,
yeah.
Let's go here for a second. You walked on to, I won't curse, but Clemson. I mean, 4 years in a row you went to the Final Four. I mean, it doesn't get any. It doesn't even make sense. But for you to be able to pick that school at that time, but then you had to make the team.
Exactly.
You had to bring it. I mean, you're not walking on. That program was climbing up. Well, the year you got there, it was the big. You got on. You caught the wave.
I got lucky. I'm not claiming any credit for the pick, which wound up being perfect. But no. I mean, that's a big issue. Is in the South, one thing that I learned is most of the kids who are graduating high school who are looking to play football at the next level, it's very common to have what they call reclassing, where a kid will get held back in 8th grade, eighth grade twice, because you're that much better of an athlete typically at 19 than 18.
Yeah.
And one of the things that hurts New York City kids is without proper access to pre-K, a lot of these kids are enrolled in kindergarten just because their parents need to work and need to get them out of the house. As 4-year-olds, we have so many 16-year-old seniors in New York City, which you can't find anywhere else in the country.
Is that true? I didn't know that.
16, young 17-year-olds.
Is that an inner city thing?
It's a bigger problem in inner city because there's not the resources available to send them to a private pre-K program. They need to get them into the public schools as soon as possible so mom can go work.
No, listen, I get it. This is what I love about what you're doing. I know, like on Long Island, within the lacrosse world, right? I mean, it's already it's so strategic. I mean, you're groomed.
100%.
I mean, there's the phone calls are being made in like 5th grade. It's unbelievable what goes into it from the parents and the travel teams. This is another thing. Now, the expense of a travel team, the price that the family has to pay, besides the money, but the time and the effort to get everybody, whoever the kid is.
It's excessive. If you want to be honest about it,
it's pricey.
It's wrong, really, because what it's doing is it's making sure that the haves get the opportunities, and the kid who might be twice as talented, who doesn't come from anything, doesn't get that opportunity. And that was really a big driving force behind us, because we're looking at our competitors in this space are all for-profit companies. We're the only nonprofit doing this, to my knowledge. But they're, the rivals and the opening camps and all these big camps that you hear about, $200, $300 a kid.
Yeah, and what happens if you just don't have the scratch?
Exactly.
That's it, right?
Then it's over, right? On top of it, you've got a system out there where basically in order to get recruited to a school, you're expected to go to their summer camp. And just fiscally for most kids, the idea of going on 5 different vacations in the middle of the summer, weekend trips to go get recruited and have a chance is just not feasible. So that was a really important thing to us. As a charity, we lost about $10,000 putting on the event, but it was so important for us to keep it. We put it at a $25 price point. We were very tempted to make it free, but we said any kid who this is important too, can scratch together $25. We wanted buy-in. We wanted the kids to really take ownership of it. But we wanted to make sure that, we don't care what you come from, what kind of money you have, what kind of neighborhood you call home. We just want to see if you can play.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. We're breaking down these barriers that exist, and people don't even really talk about it much, but everywhere you look, there's systemic problems in our country. And this just happens to be the one that was nearest and dearest to my heart that I could, take down.
It's in your wheelhouse.
Mm-hmm.
This is something you can tangibly adjust.
Exactly.
If not fix. I mean, who knows where this thing can go? This is really good, but you got going on.
I know one thing: we'll never know the true extent of this outreach because, for instance, I have a kid that called me up after the showcase about a week ago and said, hey, coach, I took down your number after the showcase. And, I was really hoping to play college football, but the phone isn't ringing. Nobody's recruiting me. I've got nothing going on. And a really good kid from Harlem. So I said, here's what we're going to do. I sent him a list of all the Division III schools that.
You're giving him your deal? What you did?
No. Here's what I did. I sent him a list of all the schools from Division III that had agreed to recruit us. I said, here's what you're going to do. I want you to sit down and look at each of these schools geographically. Is it a fit? Football, is it a fit? Academically, do they have a major that I'm interested in? Once you can give me a list of 10 schools, I'll reach out to them for you. So he got back to me, and I just made some introductions earlier in the week, and the kid has 3 offers to play college football.
You're kidding me? Scholarships?
They hook you up on financial aid
at
the Division III level, which to me is essentially a scholarship.
It's good.
And I don't know if he was going to go to college or if he wasn't going to go to college without football. But what I do know is if he goes to college because of the Elite Five, or if that plays a small role, that creates generational change. His kids will be better off. He'll go back to his community and uplift his community. I'd love to, as we move further down, get into a little bit of the stuff that the organization, the charity, is doing.
Yeah.
Because it's really a holistic approach. I'm in charge of the Elite Five and the football sector of it.
Yeah.
But there's really a lot of different, things that we have going on. One thing that we're trying to work on right now is we're launching a mentorship program in the next month. It's called the About You Mentorship Program, the AMP program. And really what we're hoping to do is we're pairing inner city kids with working professionals in New York City. Because a lot of these kids
in varied careers.
And we're hoping as it builds out to be more specified. Okay, you're a math kid, we'll get you a finance person.
Right.
You're creative.
But is there one contingency for the mentor to have athletic college experience?
It's preferred, but not mandatory. But yeah, so far the mentors that we have recruited have mainly had college athletic experience. But what we're trying to do is in the long term, we're basically going to build out a mentorship program beneath this mentorship program, where kids who have been through our programming and gone to college and been successful come back and then mentor the youngest kids. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to create an environment and a mentality amongst New Yorkers and amongst the kids that are getting the help from our charity.
It's almost like a fraternity in a sense. Like
exactly.
You're part of something really cool.
You're a part of something bigger than yourself, and it's expected of you, hey, we're going to go and we're going to do everything we can to help you get your grades right, to help train you, to get you into the best situation possible. And after we do that, we want you to come back, and we want you to come back into Harlem and the Bronx and Brooklyn and tell people, hey, it's cool that I got a 1200 SAT. It's cool that I'm studying finance or biology or whatever in college. And really just try to create an ecosystem where we get rid of these stupid stigmas that occur in these, low-income areas where there's something wrong with being a great student and prioritizing that.
It's the humility behind what you're doing too that I love. I went through a darker 50-year run. Not exaggerating, but I learned lessons coming out of the hard way, let's say, right? And that's what I like about you. Like, see, one of the greatest things about being in recovery is there's a saying that you freely give what's freely been given. Like, people just step up out of nowhere and just offer their help. And you're like, there's got to be a strain here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need your help. And then when you realize people really care because people care for them. And the only expectation from you is to care for somebody else. Somebody else. That's exactly what you're doing here. Exactly. But you didn't have to go through getting dragged through the nonsense. See, that was what I saw that in you initially when I first met you, was you had that kind of insight. You had the compassion, but you had the insight to have that and not this elite attitude. That's like a big deal. This is what we're lacking right now in all aspects of life. Let's get real, right? I mean, it's not, in your world of football, there's a lot of really good guys, coaches, or boost every people that just really, they help and they just want to be involved in some way. But everybody is helping for a greater cause. That's one of the great things about sports. And wherever you go, you get to meet a lot of really cool people that you wouldn't have met had you not had this athletic opportunity, right? For you to have the insight to say, I'm going to the Bronx to show them. I love that, man. That is,
Well,
creme de la creme. That's the deal.
It kind of ties back to no matter how many times I try and wrap my head around it, I can't rationalize or truly understand God's grace in allowing me to go to Clemson when I did and get to experience the things that I got to. And
That is amazing.
I'm a good football player, or I was a good football player. There's plenty of guys way better than me that never got to accomplish and get to see the things that I got to be a part of. And because of that, I feel like I owe a lifetime, a debt of gratitude to the game. And part of that is paying it forward. I've seen the incredible effects that the game can have on people.
Yeah.
Seen people uplifted through it, seen people go through adversity and grow because of the game of football.
Yeah.
And I just figure, hey, you know what? If I'm truly who I say I am,
Right.
who I try to be, which is a good man and a man of faith, then I have an obligation to go back and help every single kid that I can. And you know what? Even though I might not have gone through the economic hardships, I went through all the good, the bad, and the ugly of the recruiting process. And I know that, there is a need.
Because it worked out so well. If we went back to when you were in your senior year in high school, you would have liked more offers. You would have liked more attention.
My perspective was, yes, I was mad at the world, honestly. I was looking around and saying, hey, I can do this. Does somebody else believe in me? And you know what? Having the deck stacked against me really helps me to resonate with all these kids and what they're going through right now. Because you know what? When I'm trying to get recruited as a senior in 2020, and in Georgia and in Florida and all across the country, they're playing and I'm sitting on the couch, I'm mad at the world. And I wanted to show them, hey guys, you know what? There's still opportunity. There's still somebody who cares about you, and we're going to make something happen.
You said something earlier too about the coaches. I guess you referred to in Clemson that you've kind of met from the tree, right? And connection to everything. You will walk on to a national championship program. You might have more notoriety amongst that crew of coaches than the elite quarterback, because you walked on. That's like, that's a special thing, man. The guys you don't just walk on. It doesn't happen. Not when you're on that level. That's a tremendous accomplishment that shows so much heart and so much balls for you to go there and get it done and not beg it. For every person that does what you did, there's 100 that's the excuse they were waiting for, to sit back on the couch and watch on Sunday and go, the glory days.
Yeah.
I used to be able to do that. And I remember when I used to be able to watch that kid out there, except he's making $7 million and
Yeah.
I ain't.
Yeah. Well, you know what?
Right? You stepped up. And
I appreciate that. And you know what? It made me a much better person having to go through and earn every single thing that came to me.
Yeah.
And there's an immense sense of pride that nothing was given, nothing was easy. But the goal surpassed any sort of the adversity that I was going to face along the way. I knew showing up at Clemson what I was there to do.
Yeah.
And I decided do everything I could to carry it through. As far as what you're saying about my coaches, that is a really cool thing that I'm really appreciative of. Is my coaches at Clemson know, hey, I'm not an athlete that's probably going to pop into their head as one of the greatest they've coached. But what I think they all will tell you is the work ethic that I brought every single day. And I'm really appreciative of a guy like Brent Venables, who's the defense coordinator at Clemson, because in working through this whole process with the Elite Five, I've kind of talked to him a few times and was actually just on the phone with him earlier today, talking to him about a couple kids that I'm trying to get recruited out of New York City. And he picks up the phone and we're talking, and he's invited my wedding, and he's excited to come up in June for my wedding, and there's incredible respect there, because I'm talking to him. I'm just a 23-year-old kid. He doesn't ever listen to me.
Yeah, but at 18, you were earning. You were already earning.
Yeah.
I mean, and that was paying off in a really big way.
Yeah, I mean it's pretty amazing and humbling. to be honest, because really I'm not somebody who on paper should have gotten to be a part of these things.
It really comes down to you believed in you, enough to fight your way to the top. And everything else, nothing else really matters. It's all like, white noise.
Thank you.
Right?
100%. And now what the focus is propagating that message and getting it out there.
Is that your greatest tangible gift that you could share with another young athlete?
Yeah, there's a lot of different things that I try and share with these kids, and I always try and take it past the game, like on a weekly basis. When I was going up to the Bronx, it's gotten cold out, so we put a moratorium for a couple months. We'll probably be back out there in February. One of the things that I try and do is always just impart like a little bit of wisdom or just experiences that I've had on them, because nobody really tells you what to expect when it comes to college athletics.
Yeah.
You get blown away by the glitz and glamour, and people say it's going to be hard. But nobody really tells you what that all looks like. So one thing I really try to do is talk to the kids and break down, hey, you know what? When you're in college, I had days after practice where I was sky high and felt like I was the man. I also have probably a lot more days where I came home after practice and felt like I was worthless. Because one thing about college football is for pretty much the entire year, for 4 years, you are living in that ecosystem of 120 guys. You might be the best person in the world outside of that locker room, but within that locker room, you're judged by a couple things, and it starts with how you can play the game. And you know what? The game is a fickle bitch sometimes, and you're going to really have some lows. And I try to prepare them for that. And I said, listen, guys, you got to have healthy outlets when that happens, because it happens to every single college football player.
Yeah.
And you know what? Instead of turning to drugs and alcohol when that happens, I would encourage you guys to start, building relationships with your buddies that go beyond just hanging out. Start talking to your buddies about, hey, look, I'm struggling with some depression right now.
Yeah.
That's what a real man looks like.
But that's a hard thing to get a kid to do.
It's tough.
That's a big
tough.
deal.
I told them, hey, everybody's going to have something, but find something outside that ecosystem that's a comfort space for you. For me, it might have been going to church or, having, or joining a club or whatever it may be. But you really got to find things that are healthy alternatives, because there's a lot of guys who struggle with that mental tax that they'll take. So really, there's a million things that I can teach these kids. But the number one thing right now, when the world is against them seemingly, to teach them is, hey, so I believe in you, and you should believe in you.
Yeah.
And that was the message for every single kid that came to the Elite Five. I made sure to tell them my story and let them know this isn't my story. This is what I'm hoping can show you guys.
Yeah. Like anybody, when you see you in somebody, you know that they can even surpass your story because they got your story.
And that's the goal.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Right.
I want them to be better than me. I want them.
What you bring, though, is legitimacy, right? Like, you're not, if I told your story, it's not going to carry the weight. I didn't do it. You did it. And if you're the kid listening, it's a big deal. Well, big deal.
I try and make it tangible for them. Hey, you know what? You saw me. I'm a big guy, but I'm 6'2.5". I'm not 6'6" walking around.
Yeah.
And I was able to play at that level. What's your excuse? And you know what? If that is your goal, do it. You can do it. And you're going to have a support system through the Elite Five that is going to do everything in our power to help you do it.
Right. So when you did too, though, it wasn't just football. Your college, you excelled academically, right? So how did you navigate the athletics and the demands on you athletically to play? Because you're not the star of the squad. You're fighting for game time every day. Mm-hmm. And does your conflict come into play when you got to cram for a test or you got to,
It's tough. I got to give a lot of credit to my coaching staff at Clemson because they were very understanding on a couple, small handful of instances where I had a test, during practice or, hey, coach, I got a 20-page paper due tomorrow and I got to be working on that. Fine. Go take care of that. That comes first.
Would you get that kind of leeway because you were pulling the grades?
It's definitely a part of it.
Yeah.
You're going to be held accountable to what to whatever your report card shows and whatever your performance shows. So, I mean, you earn yourself some brownie points over time.
Yeah.
And you can lose brownie points a hell of a lot quicker.
They say one oops can erase all the attaboys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they're understanding, but no, it's a challenge. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a huge proponent of college athletics, is because it really gives you a schedule that much more resembles real life than just being a normal college student. Because normal college students hanging around 15 hours a week in the classroom, maybe another 10 hours in the library, and the rest is drinking beer and playing video games.
Yeah.
When you're playing college sports, especially college football, it's a 40-hour week on top of whatever your academic responsibilities are. So it's, I was working 60, 70-hour weeks. And that's one of the reasons it's so challenging. But that's another reason why the people who leave college athletics and are able to successfully transition into the working world thrive when they do so.
Charles Barkley talks about this stuff all the time. Like, a lot of people, he gets so much slack for being controversial. He talks a lot of good stuff.
Wow, big fan.
Yeah, me too. He goes about college, how when somebody's like this big multi-million-dollar contract is up, they refer to this guy as like, hey, that's what's the term? Not lifestyle changing money, but like generational.
Yeah, generational.
You're going to set up your generational wealth. You're going to set up your whole family. Like, that's like, how you can't sneeze at that. You can't make that mistake, right? That's one you can't screw up, right? But what kids are failing to realize is that when you're like maybe the first kid in your family tree to go to college, you change a whole, like the rest of the tree. The direction of the, like now you're being looked at in a different light. So if athletics gets you into college and you get a college degree out of it, and you can parlay that into a career, and you're a total success. I mean, you're not to be judged on, the 4 years you played in college and what happened. I mean, that's part of it, but there's a lot more to it for those who avail themselves to that.
Absolutely, and I feel really sad for people whose college experience is the best time of their life, because it's supposed to prepare you for the best time of your life, and that's I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's something we're making concerted effort to do it about you, is teach these kids that it's not just about college. College is right now the current tangible goal, but really that means a job. And the mentorship program is one of the first steps in that, because it's giving these 16, 17-year-old kids somebody who's going to say, hey, you know what, 4 years from now, 5 years from now, you got to go out on your own, and what does that look like, and what do you want to do? And one thing we're going to integrate that I'm really proud of into the Elite 5 is, in subsequent showcases, we're actually going to have a career fair afterwards. So basically the kids are going to go through, compete, and at the very end of the day, as they're being dismissed, there are going to be tables around the field of different companies in different industries where they can go walk over, talk, learn some information, potentially make contacts for internship opportunities. It's really a holistic approach. One thing I neglected to mention is in the lead up to the showcase, we actually had a Zoom call for all the kids and their parents that were invited to discuss academics and to discuss the college admissions process and discuss what it takes to be eligible and why it's so important to do well academically. Not every kid realizes that, hey, by having an 80 average instead of a 90 average, I limit all these schools. They're already out for me before I ever step foot on the football field. So it's really a holistic thing of using academics to drive kids into great programs and great colleges so that they can ultimately reach that end goal of getting a good job. And beyond that, taking that good job back to your community and showing people what it looks like, and show them, hey, a kid from Harlem can go down south and work on Wall Street.
I think this is just brilliant. I can only see it getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The only question is, how do you fund this thing? Is this all like you have to go out and find funding for this? Like, it's a nonprofit, so you got to raise money. That's a whole other part of it.
And anybody interested in donating can go to aboutu.outreach.org. So we're funded by a variety of different sources, primarily corporate sponsors, but also small individual donations. And funding wise, we're really falling far short of where we need to be to really bring this dream to fruition.
That's why I bring it up, because it's really critical, because you got it here. You got the crown jewel right here. Now it's a matter of keeping it going and just keep breathing life into it, right?
So much of it is about getting the message out.
Yeah.
Because I think when people see something like we have going on, it's a unifier. It's something that anybody can get behind, transcends party lines, transcends backgrounds, anything.
Yeah.
It's really, and it's special. I've never been in a place where race existed less than out on that football field in the Bronx this summer.
Yeah.
Where, racial tensions in our country were probably higher than they have been in the last 50 years. I was out there, and it's family. No one cares that I'm a white guy, a black guy. And that's something that sports can do.
Certain things do that. Sports is one, music's another one. There's a few things like that where it's just,
and it's special. It's so special having a family where everybody looks different age groups. You got 8th graders out there, with seniors, with college kids, with me, with 40-year-olds.
And you're like in the foxhole, you're playing like football, like any sport, but football in particular, literally a foxhole. You get like somebody's got your back in a real crucial play, or just doesn't allow you to look stupid, like I mean, these are things that you can have a relationship that will carry on through your life because this really happened. Like, there's no question.
Yeah.
Because you never know if anybody's got your back until they got your back.
Every football team has a couple of guys who are the butt of the jokes.
Yeah.
But I remember my senior year seeing somebody from off the football team be a jerk to one of the guys who was a nerdier, butt of the jokes type kid on the football team. And I went over and almost kicked the guy's ass. Because you know what? Within that family, we'll get on each other and we'll bust each other's chops.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's a brotherhood. You look out for one another above all.
You don't forget that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
And that's what I mean about
exactly.
So true tests.
But really, it is important for us to get our messaging out there. Because it's desperately needed, and right now we're making a big push with the corporations that we've talked to and worked with. One thing that's really cool is Royal Bank of Canada, their investment banking division, has actually partnered with us, and once a month we put on Zoom calls for all the members of our program to basically, we had a financial literacy night, we had an investment banking night, budgeting, time planning and scheduling, all this kind of stuff, basically to start educating these kids and giving them a taste of that corporate world and what the expectations are. And now what we're trying to do is come to the table with all the corporations who we've worked with and who know us, and let them know, hey, diversity and inclusion, it's a big buzzword right now. Everywhere you go, you hear D&I. Diversity and inclusion can't start at 22 when the kids leave college.
Right.
And that's one of my biggest issues with the take that I've seen from so many companies is, hey, what do we need to do to hire more black people? Well, you know what? It really should be, what do we need to do to make sure that our applicant pool is equally represented from everybody?
Yeah.
And what it takes foundational investment.
Yeah.
Aboutu is a great method, a great vehicle for that, because you know what? If you want the leaders of tomorrow, invest in the 13-year-olds who are struggling in Harlem today. Those kids have what it takes.
Yes, man. Yes. And what greater story is when, somebody just gets an opportunity and nails it. Like, you did it. Yeah. But when you see somebody who has nothing, and that is like, that makes people cry.
What I want to tell all these kids is, hey, you know what? You might not even realize it, but being from where you're from, you're already more prepared than anybody else out there for whatever life's going to throw at you. Because you know what? And a normal kid doesn't have to ride the subway to school. A normal kid doesn't have to look over his shoulder
if I'm eating.
Exactly. Exactly. These kids are brought up through the grind. They struggle every day of their lives to make it. And you know what? The ones who can deserve every freaking opportunity to ascend and, really reach their water level. I always talk about it with Clemson with me. I want to reach my water level, do as good as I can. Every kid deserves it.
You are doing it. Like, once again, you're stepping up and you're providing these opportunities. We can talk about, I have a friend who's a writer, and he goes, there's two kinds of writers. Those who write and those who talk about being a writer. We can apply that to just about anything, right? But that's the deal. It's a big deal. So a kid played some game. He played the game of his life. Did he not? And then he come back and continue to play.
Unbelievable. I talked to
every pass was on the money.
Talked to a couple of my buddies who are still on the team after the game, and they said to me, Pat, one of the things that kills us is we're watching film on this team, and I can guarantee you if we play 10 times, we're winning 7 or 8. And Ohio State came out there with an edge and with emotion and just, that's the thing about football. The team with that emotional advantage, they're piss hot.
Yeah. Okay. I don't even know how to even ask you this question because I know the reverence you have for Dabo. And I know what he means to you. But that's where that emotion came from. I mean, come on. And you know what? I agree with him. I think I'll say this. Here's a tough thing. There's no way to say that without putting that on a bulletin board. There's just no way to say that. But he is right. Like, he is right. Like, why should the team have to play 8 games?
The principle behind the thought was completely accurate.
But if you did that, would he ring you? Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. And he made, like, again, I'm not here to, listen, if I could be a 10 to the guy he is, I mean, the guy is, he's earned the right.
He's earned a lot of respect, but nobody is beyond criticism.
Right. But, like I'm saying, I think that's what happened. They just had this fire. Yeah, and there's something intangible. I don't know what the word is. I don't know if there is a word, that intangible thing where every pass he threw was like, yeah. But that's who he is too. I mean, like, there's gonna come. You're gonna say something over a 6 year. Is there a better? Well, maybe you could say Alabama, but this was a 6-year run now.
Yeah,
this is like unparalleled. Unprecedented. Alabama.
Unprecedented. And we're currently running.
And you beat Alabama twice, actually.
Beat Alabama twice throughout that period, and over the past 6 years, Alabama's made 5 playoffs, Clemson made 6.
Yeah.
So there's 2 national championships. Alabama.
I think your 4-year run. I don't know about it. Was their run better?
No, because you know what? I don't want to trash any of the Alabama guys. You win a national championship, you're a champion.
You beat them twice, and that third, that one that you lost. That was quite. There's a lot of questionable calls.
What I'll tell you is the reason that our run is more impressive is Alabama had already had the standards set.
The mistake and everything coming
before
with them,
right? They had one national
title. You had to
knock
them off the hill.
It's a very difficult thing,
yes.
And you're seeing it currently right now in Notre Dame. Notre Dame is a very good football program, and you ask why do they continually get embarrassed at these high stages? It's because it takes something extra. It takes a special group to push it over the top, to really break through and be able to win it all. It's not something that's easy to do, but it is something that's easier to do once you've done it. So our team was the first in 35 years to win a national championship at Clemson, and we came back and did it 2 years later. I was a part of both of those teams, and I can tell you, the way that a team carries itself after they've won a national championship and you belong, there's a different swagger getting off the bus, and that had to be established by somebody, and it was done my sophomore year.
When you're a part of something like that, right, your adrenaline, your ego, I mean, everything's at an all-time high, right? You're the man.
I mean, me personally, I was semi. I don't know if I was ever the man,
but because you're in that team,
yeah,
and your role on the team was whatever your role was on that team, that might
4 things
bring everybody kind of even like back right size you, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. But on campus and off campus, I mean, you're the man, right? That's pretty right. So now you're out of school, working professionally. How do you watch a football game? You can't have that same. How different is it?
It's tough,
especially if you're watching Clemson.
Yeah, it's hard. Like, I'll always support those guys. I'm a huge football junkie, and I love watching the game. For a while, it was a transition there for me to have to get used to watching on television, and it's tough. These are guys that were younger than me. Guys who I kind of was a leader for, and now they're the stars in their own right, and I'm sitting at a desk. It's a tough transition. I think the only way to kind of get through it is, you have to have bigger and better dreams than whatever you accomplish at 18 to 22. And,
right.
I'm really proud of what's in the rearview mirror, but it's just that, it's in the rearview mirror.
Yeah.
Nothing's less important than the stories that I tell over beers to my buddies on Friday night. I'm all about what's in front of me, and you know what? Elite 5 and some other different kind of cool things I got going on. I hope my legacy is that of Pat Godfrey, the helper, the man who gave back, who uplifted his community, not just a guy who played football, because there's a million of those.
I had a guy who was a mentor to me for a while. He played at University of Miami basketball.
Wow.
And he played, he came in after Rick Barry. He's still like one of the top 10 scorers in Miami, you know. But he had a great career in college and everything. And then he got into gambling and stuff like that. He had, you know, some tough years and stuff. He would teach me a lot about this stuff. When we talk about basketball, I would just like be a sponge, you know, because he would say, you don't want to be that guy. Like, you know, there's some glory days. That's the guy you just don't want to be. That, you know, like, so whatever you have to do to not be that guy. He said, he never had a trophy. He never displayed a trophy of anything he ever did. He goes, if I look back, I got to look back at all of it. And it all ain't so pretty. So I look forward. I just don't, I'm not hanging shit on the walls. Yesterday, it's cancel check. You know, let's stay. He taught me so much. So I would learn from that, and the willingness for him to teach that came out of his darker moments. You know, he was really good for me in that way. You know what he wound up doing?
What?
You watch NFL football? The Goodyear blimp?
Yeah.
That's him. He started that.
Oh,
He
really?
was like with Roone Arledge and like these big sports names on TV, ABC Sports. He traveled the world. He had this great career in Goodyear. He established how to get the camera angles, and that was his baby. But he's in this like the Broadcasting Hall of Fame. He just passed away recently. You know, it's yeah. Well, he lived a great life. People we get one run, man.
Yeah.
We get one run. That's why I love what you're doing. You got a good head on your shoulders. You got you're insightful, and you can see what's there, and you're not blowing it.
I'm trying not to, you know, and it all kind of, you know, I never realized when I was a part of the program how much wisdom Dabo's imparting on you every day, because, you know, a lot of it's just passive. But one thing that kind of stays with me is every day in the team meeting room, we had this great big picture, and it was basically from the inside of a car with the rearview mirror and the road ahead. Yeah. And it says rearview mirror mentality was on the board every single day. And what did that mean? We're going to put whatever's behind us, and we're just looking
win, lose, or whatever the heck happened.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, hey, I'm proud. It's great. I've done a lot of cool stuff, but I'm really excited about the future. You know,
to this point in your life, is he your greatest, most impactful influence other than your father?
That's tough. Geez, having to think about that. I mean, up there, potentially above Dabo is Venables, our defense coordinator. He was really like a mentor for me because I worked hand in hand with him every day. I was his scout team center. He was playing quarterback on scout team, running around like crazy.
So he wants you to do this and do that and do this to this guy.
I learned from him because he was always very, very difficult on his players, but always loving and loyal. So
that's good.
So he would freaking rip you at practice. He would rip me a new one all the time. And, you know, times where I'd be like, you know, wanting to punch him in the face. But I always knew that he cared about me.
Yeah.
I always knew he was fair, he cared about me. And also I knew he was working harder than I was or anybody else. So that's
intense, man. Oh my God.
Whoa. He's always, literally every single morning runs like 6 miles as soon as he wakes up, like 5 a.m. And he always seems like he just drank 4 cups of coffee. But I learned a lot from that because you know what? If you're loyal and you're the hardest worker, your people are going to love you.
Isn't his son on the team, right?
He's got two sons on the team.
He's safety?
So he's got a son who's a safety,
yeah,
and a son who's a middle linebacker.
Imagine not being a hard hitter if you're his son. Like you got, I mean.
Yeah, no, those guys, I mean, yeah, I'm pretty sure that both of his sons were kind of like, I don't know if you're familiar with like the Marinovich project.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that's what he did to his sons. I used to bust his chops because he's about 5'10", 5'11", and his son's about 6'2". I'd be like, BB, were you stretching this kid out as a toddler so he could hit 6'2"?
But these kids are good kids. Like, you know,
they're good, really good guys. Really good guys.
That's a great documentary.
Yeah,
like that.
Really good.
And that guy, you talk about a talent. That guy should have been an all-pro, perennial all-pro. He had every tool.
What does it show you? It shows you the other piece of things, right?
He'd rather be surfing.
Unless from the neck up,
yes.
You have what it takes.
Yes,
doesn't matter.
And even the heart, like it's not that he couldn't do it. When his heart wasn't in it, it wasn't in it. Yeah. Period. He was just like a surfer, man, like a heart, and an artist, like, and he was just gifted, and his father pushed him.
Yeah,
I think his father got everything out of him that way.
It's a difficult thing that I ponder when I think about what I'm going to be like with my kids someday.
Yeah,
I want to be a great dad, and sports are so important to me. But at the same time, it's also more important for me that they do whatever they love and feel loved no matter what they're doing.
But if you get a Steph Curry out of it,
I'm happy with it. I'm happy with it. But I've seen a lot of people, ruin their kids though with their own ambitions. I want to make sure never to do that. I'd love it if my kid is a better athlete than me. That'd be beautiful. Because I'm never going to talk about myself. But best believe that when I have a son someday, if he's running out on the field in Death Valley, you're going to hear about it.
Yeah, well, let me hear. Hopefully, I'll. Oh my God, I don't even want to think about how old I would be now. Oh my God.
It's all right. I'll sit down in the nursing home. I'll have a great time. I don't see why not.
I remember you. I say that in total jest because I do. I admire you. You're a young guy. I always say this thing to young kids that just get it when they're trying to get sober and they get it young. I go, man, just be the one where, when they say youth is wasted on the young, just be that one that it's not wasted on, and every once in a while, you run into them. You're one of them. I mean, you just take advantage of opportunities, you work your ass off, you see things through, you got a lot of it, but your parents, your parents, and I tell them all, your parents did a great job with all you and your brother and sister too. I mean, they really.
Nothing happens on accident. From the time that I was little, I've got so much empathy for these kids because a lot of these kids don't have what I always knew, to be my world growing up, which was my parents loved me, my parents loved each other. They were going to do everything they could to give me an opportunity, and I was never worried about a roof over my head and food in my mouth. I had those 4 things. That's about as big of a privilege and advantage, whatever you want to call it in life.
Now you're seeing kids that don't have any of that.
And when I see a kid who doesn't have any of that, but is still a great kid, that's something exceptional. And those are the kids where I really buy in. I don't want to, take it too long, but I do have one anecdotal story about a kid who I've been working with that's just really special to me. I started working with this kid back up at the Bronx, June or so, and I started coaching him. He had never played football before. 6'2", 255, great athlete, had never played football. He played basketball his whole life. So I started coaching him up, and he was really, really just a good kid, but quiet, really quiet. I find out from my partner that his background is his dad died when he was 8 years old, and he grew up actually in Paris, homeless. And his mom still lives in Paris, haven't seen his mom in 5 years, and he lives with his cousins in Harlem, a tiny little apartment. So I started working with this kid, and just quiet, but there every week, working his tail off. Over time, he starts texting me, and we start developing a personal relationship, and became close, and started mentoring him a little bit. I watched this kid blossom and come out of his shell, and now he's, a jokester. He's like a clown at practice, and huge personality, and super confident. He's getting girls and having a ton of fun. And at the same time, his grades went from 79 his first 3 years of high school to he's got a 95 average right now.
Where was the switch?
Someone telling him I believe in you.
So simple.
It was that simple as, he called me up and said, Coach, I'm just nervous. I don't know if I'm going to get an opportunity, and I can't afford college, and I really just want to do this for my mom. And I said to him, listen, I believe in you. We're going to do it. That's it. And, really, he has been, he's helped me as much as I've helped him, because it's just given me a great sense of appreciation for what I have in my life. And if this kid can be happy, he can work his tail off and overcome all that, what he's been through.
Yeah, it's yeah.
What excuse do I have?
Yeah, that's great. That's a great story. Yeah, that's great. That's what it's about. 48 years ago on Christmas Eve, on New Year's Eve, I should say, Roberto Clemente, you heard of Roberto Clemente, right? But there was a guy, he said, his saying was that if a day that you're not doing something for somebody else is a wasted day. I'm paraphrasing totally, but how impactful of a statement is that? There's a guy that, his accomplishments speak for themselves. He was, one of the greatest, a handful of greatest baseball players that ever played. True, legend. And then this was what he was about. He says baseball was what he did. And it was as simple as that. That's what I do. When he's in that diamond, he's giving it everything he's got. His talent is superlative, I should say. And it's just like that. But what he was about was everything else. Who you are, your integrity is who you are when nobody's looking, right? And that's the deal.
Exactly. And really, I'm of the personal belief I think charity should be done in the dark and if possible. Not in a situation there because, by virtue of me getting out in front and being the visual advocate at the forefront of this charge, I'm going to be able to do a lot more good.
Yes. Yes.
But, I'm really of the opinion that when it's all said and done, I don't think God's going to really care too much about the money that I made. Even though we love telling stories about Clemson football, I don't think the 2 national championships are getting me through the pearly gates. What it's about is what did you do for other people?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's as simple as that. And I found I'm so much happier in trying to work to do something for somebody else than if it's me at the end of the day, that I'm trying to help.
That's an interesting point you said too. I started this whole interviewing thing, like this on the roof thing. It started from a couple of documentaries I was trying to do. One was about these retired boxers, who were just these guys that they fought in the day. Kid Gavilan, and some of them were world champions, and they were like on hard times later years in life. And there's no boxing union. There's no there were a bunch of guys that would have these dinners and they would do fundraisers and help guys pay their bills. Engel Griffith, multi championships he had, and the guy couldn't pay his bills because you're not gifted with all these other talents. They're from that day and age where you fought. That's what you did. And then when you can't fight anymore, you're discarded. It was just that thing. So I was so impressed with how they did this in anonymity. There was no fanfare about what they did. And then they had this big dinner, and I got to meet so many great and hang out with Joe Frazier and Ken Norton and Boom Boom Anstey. Spend the day with Macho Camacho. And this was I was like, whoa. I met Paul Savino, from the actor. Big Paulie and the Goodfellas.
Oh, yeah. Okay, of course.
And they asked me, he was at this dinner, and I'm like, how cool is it that all these guys are as men, but they do this in anonymity? He goes, well, I don't really know so much about how great the anonymity part really is. Think about Pete Sampras and all the charity work he does, and how much attention and money he gets to really make a difference on another level. Yeah. Think about Magic Johnson, and he's like throwing these examples. I'm going, I got nothing.
It's tough. It's tough, but
I know what you're
there's
saying.
There's always an element of self when people are bright lights doing charity.
Right. But when you really want to make a difference, when you want to make a difference in an individual's life, they say, you do something good. When you want to build self-esteem, do something for somebody else and don't tell anybody. Mm-hmm. Just nobody. Just shut up. Just do it. And that's how you build self-esteem, right? That's one way. But when you're going to act like Jim Valvano, the V Foundation, you go on levels like that. That is a difference. You know how many people don't even know who Jim Valvano is, but they're alive because of him? Yeah. And not just him, but Dickie V and all that whole foundation.
That's the caveat to the situation. Is I have no idea how wide my platform is going to extend, and my story is still being told. But I'm hoping that through whatever I've been able to do and what I'm yet to do, it's going to come together and help a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's my point in saying this. What you have here is an absolute gem. This is I don't want to say can't miss, but you already hit the target. You're already in action. You're going. This can grow to who knows where. The possibilities are infinite, right?
We're looking at a Boston Elite 5 showcase in April. We're currently in conversations with a school called Crespi out in Los Angeles. because unfortunately Compton has the same problems Harlem has.
Yeah.
And we're going to expand this and take it as far as we can. And there's a lot of work ahead. What it's about now is I'm trying to get this message as far and wide as I can, because I know once people hear about it, people see it, it's easy to get behind. And once we have the proper, levels of support and have enough resources at our disposal, I think really this could be scaled and 10,000 kids.
Yeah, you got the template, that's for sure. Listen, man, I can't thank you enough, Pat. I mean, I really appreciate the opportunity to do this. And if there's anything that I can do in my little way to help you guys out in any way at all, consider it done.
This is a great start.
Listen, it's my pleasure. This is an honor for me to do this. I mean, I want to see this turned into something really good.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're a good man, man. Anyway, listen, Pat, I wish you the best in 2021.
Hey, thanks.
And you get married in June?
Yeah, June 26th. So fingers crossed. We're hoping.
Yeah,
we're out on Long Island. We're going to do it in Centerport. So really excited about it. Just kind of saying my prayers that the vaccine gets out. They let me have the the big wedding we were hoping for.
Yeah.
We'll see.
And some tells me that you'll get it that way. It'll work out for you that way. So
I don't know. Yeah, I've got a pretty good track record.
And you know
things just need to turn out all right.
Knowing you, even if it don't, you'll wind up having another big wedding party.
Even better, right?
Yeah.
I got to take whatever lemons I'm given and turn them to lemonade. That's how you have to do things. So
all right, listen.
Thanks so much.
Thank you so much. And everybody out there, follow Pat.
aboutu.outreach.org. You can find all the information on a charity and doing a lot of great things.
Right, and if you're out there and you want to donate, you want to fund these guys, please do, man. This is a great thing. So if you like what you saw here today, please like and subscribe to On the Roof with Scott, and we'll see you next time. And we'll have you back again, probably before next football championship game.
Can't wait. Let's do it.
All right.